Here we go again. Alright, just give me a thumbs up if we got sound this time. Yeah? Okay. Good morning, everybody. Live from the SMB U stream channel, as our site is having some technical difficulties. We're looking at the 7-day picture in the SPY. This is most relevant for short-term traders. You're going to see a lot of stuff in the media, the headlines, Yahoo Finance, Google Finance, Wall Street Journal, etc. Market's strong, market's weak. Most important thing for us is to pay attention as short-term traders what we're doing relative to what we've seen recently. Yesterday morning, we were gapping up a little bit, and we failed in this zone right here that I've drawn for you over the last week from 132 to 132.20. I think we exactly failed at 132.18. Europe very strong across the board, up between 1% and 2%. We were gapping above this zone this morning, setting us up for possible higher prices. But as we zoom in, we can see that we actually failed up here around 132.50, and we're now consolidating right in this zone. So it's actually a pretty perfect setup from a market perspective as to which way we move today. As we continue to consolidate further in the pre-market, we're looking to see if we break to the upside or break to the downside from here. Above 132.20, then of course we have the pre-market high, and then the resistance from last Wednesday, I believe, around 132.5. Then above that is where we failed that morning at around 133.30 something. So that should really be how you inform your overall market view today. And then below 132, yesterday, we know when that happened, we took out 130.180. We went all the way down to around 130.80 or so before putting in a bottom. So that's our market view. Things have heated up again on the earnings front. There's a lot of stuff in play today, so we'll rip through that, and then I'll go through a couple of second-day plays. And so let's get that started. Let me go to my game plan. And I'll start with AMZN just because it's one of my favorite stocks from the years, and one of the better momentum stocks. Actually, for the amount of moves, it has a pretty good spread. Not for all traders, for guys with more than a year experience. But let's talk about this. I'm sure this is on a lot of people's minds. Initial reaction to the news was negative. It actually dropped down to around 173.5 very quickly, bounced back up to 180, 181. When it finally settled down, had a decent downtrend to about 176, and then drifted higher. This morning was a very nice technical setup, consolidating very tightly against this 176 support. Started to hold below, and you can see it's come off about 2 points since then. Normally on Amazon, from a bigger picture perspective on the technicals, when you think it's going to break to the downside, it actually does, and it comes off a little bit and then reverses hard. The one thing it has against it today, besides obviously the bear flag and that it's moving lower, is that it's pretty much received across the board downside targets, lowering of ratings from analysts. So that, between that, the technicals, the weak price action, you could actually see this one drift lower. So I think we want to go to the longer term and see where we are. We see that the on December 29th, the low was 167, the high that day 174.55. Following that move off the bottom, there was some support in this 174 area. That's kind of where we're hanging out right now. So since we've moved off from the 176, if we start consolidating below 74, that would be our next area where we'd look for another leg to the downside. Alright, so let's get into some easier stuff that more people can take a look at. I think the first one I want to take a look at is STX, which really blew away their numbers. Not from a revenue perspective, really was on their margins going up, which that's certainly a big positive. We can see this one ran up from 16 to 20, consolidated for about a week or so, broke above $20 a share, and now with this really nice earnings number, gapping to the upside. And what we want to do is go to the 2-day, kind of see what that looks like. And again, we're seeing this pattern very often on both the up and the downside. The initial number comes out, drives higher, consolidation. Next morning we come in, trading above that prior after hours high, and then moves to higher prices. This is a very nice technical setup, and one that shows that after the initial move, people are still interested in getting in there. And what we look for in this situation is, does it stay above the consolidation from the pre-market, which I would say is about 123.10 right here. And if it's above 23.10 by 10:30, 11 o'clock, most likely people will look to close this one at the high. A lower price stock, it's already moved from 21 to 23.5. I'm not sure how much more upside it has from here. I'd be more comfortable looking to trade this on the long side if it pulled into a consolidation area. Again, I'll zoom back out to the longer term. You can see 2-year highs. Here's the 5-year. On the 5-year, if we go back to 2008, hasn't been up to these prices since February of 2008 and peaked out earlier, late 2007, up at $28 a share. So again, getting very gappy here. So you're going to want to be careful intraday, wait for some consolidation periods to get involved with this one. The next one I want to take a look at is MTW. And this one over the last, zoom in on the 6 months we got here, had a very nice uptrend from $9 to $12.50. You can see over the last 5 days, leading into earnings. Had a decent consolidation period here from around $13 a share over the last 3 days. I guess $13.10 is really what was bought the last 2 days, between $13.10 and $13.60. So there were some people buying it. It looks like accumulating in anticipation of a good earnings number. And then this morning, we're gapping up here about a point above, kind of what you would expect from this price stock on a good number. Curious to see if the volume comes in on this one. Not really seeing too much volume here. 44,000 shares in the pre-market. We have a 10 a.m. conference call on this one. I'd be a little bit more cautious. With this light an amount of volume, anything is possible. You could see a quick drop out to this 1360 area. You could see a quick pop, maybe to 15 and change before it drifting lower. But we want to be more cautious when the volume has been thin in the pre-market. All right, FTNT. Here's the 6 months on this one. This is another one that's been light in the pre-market volume. This is one generally that doesn't move more than a point. We see a couple of times here back on December 21st, moved about 3 points or so. There was some really nice price action that day with over 8 million shares. I think that may have been the last time I looked at it. Had one more day where it was pretty good here on January 3rd with a couple of point range. I'd expect about a 2-point range in this one today. So just looking at it from a perspective of recent price action, if they wanted to drop it out, this 24 area, close to 24, would be a spot likely where they drop it out to. 26, you can see it failed there back on November 16th and December 5th. Got above there both days, but failed to close above. Zooming in now on the 2-day action, since the numbers were released. Again, very thin, spotty volume here, so you're going to have to be a little bit of suspect on that. But the initial reaction, positive to above 24.5, clustering around this 24. Let me move into the tick chart. You can see very, very spotty on the volume here. Looks like basically maybe some bid stepped in around 8:30 this morning, and it printed up here at $25 a share. So pretty much between $24.70 and $25 in the pre-market. So let's see if it moves outside of that range and some more volume steps in. And that would be inform how I trade it today. I'd be prepared to trade this on both sides as well. All right, a couple more things. Go back to my game plan. And then I wanted to go to MDVN. And I believe MDVN was an FDA announcement approval. Here's a 6-month chart on this. This is probably the drug news right here. The gap up to 30 runs up to 45, consolidates the next gap up, and it's getting very gappy on all these various phase 3 announcements, FDA approvals, non-approvals, etc. Obviously, things are looking good for this one right now. Let's go to the longer term, and this is what it looks like. It was a $15 stock. When you're a smaller biotech and things go well for your drugs, this is what happens. When you're a smaller biotech and things don't go so well, this is what it looks like in DMVN. So right now, good news. Let's take a look at, zoom in on the pre-market, see what type of volume we're looking at here. We are looking at 130,000 shares, so decent, but not phenomenal. A lot of times with these drug announcements, you'll see 500,000, even 1 million shares in the pre-market, but enough for us to formulate a basis for what's going on here. 65 is where it started in the pre-market. They ran it up to 67.5. It's pulled back about, what is that, about 60% of the move now of the pre-market range. And it seems to be forming a little bit of a base here around 65.80. So a little bit of a downtrend here from the pre-market high, supporting right here. For me to trade this on the long side, I'd want to see this move higher above this little mini downtrend from the pre-market, get probably above $66.50 a share. If it gets below the 65.80 and it's holding below with this little pre-market downtrend, maybe people are finally deciding this is the piece of news where they're going to do some profit taking and it fills the gap down to $64 a share. Again, for me, now that the volumes come in, I just need to follow the price action, this mini downtrend that's developed in the pre-market. If it doesn't get below the 65.80 here, I'm very prepared to trade it back up to the pre-market highs. The key on these types of situations are how the volume and price action plays out after 9:30 here. Don't get stubborn about it. If by 10:30 it's still hanging out here in the 66 to 66.5 area, probably not that good of a short. Alright, so that's the fresh stuff that I wanted to go over. I know there's a bunch of other things, but those are my highlights for the best potential stocks based on what I've seen. PPO, wanted to go over that from yesterday. Looks like a lot of this trade has already played out in the pre-market. So here are the two lines that I drew based on yesterday's price action. $42 a share, 38.80. We can see there was a lot of volume that came in here between 42 and 38.80. Tried to bottom, broke to the downside, made new lows down here around 37. Tried to rally back up at the end of the day to 38.70. That acted as support in the pre-market. When it got above 40 this morning, touched this 42 area. This is a spot where I would think that people would be looking to short it for a move back down to 38.70. That seems like it's already unfolding here. So again, with our rule that the pre-market has been probably the best time to trade for experienced traders over the last 6 months, this uptrend has played out. If this consolidates here and starts to move lower, wouldn't really be looking to trade this on the long side unless it came out to 38.80 again and supported. From a bigger picture perspective, I drew this line up here. If it does get above $42 a share and consolidates above there, maybe it actually brushes this news off a little bit and moves higher to this 46, where it tried to support around 1 p.m. in the afternoon before finally coming off another 9 points or so. Spread was a little bit wide yesterday, and that's something to be aware of, so it's for more experienced traders. And then one more stock from yesterday, or maybe a couple more from yesterday, LXK. This one was the one that was weak in the morning, tried to rally back a couple of times to 34.35, finally had a tight consolidation in that area where it failed a few times in the morning and rallied it up into the close to $35 a share. So that's a price that really catches my attention, around 34.30. If it pulls back there today, I want to see if it holds above there or holds below, use that as an inflection. And then above $35 a share, there's certainly no consolidation periods into this downtrend. Above 35, you could look for it to continue to trend higher. PCAR, we talked about this one in the meeting after the close yesterday. Basically, 46 was our longer-term level that it failed above on the open. There was very concerted selling. You can see peaks out of 46.50, 46.20, 45.80. So it was a very methodical seller that finally got very tight at this 45.50, where it led to a large down move. So what you want to see is, and that was the pattern. You zoom in on it. Step down, step down, step down, step down, about 4 different times, very tight. Then the big down move. If you notice that pattern, where a stock is, well, I think we know what we call that. We call that a descending triangle, right? So it's just a very nice little technical pattern. But anyway, it was very weak yesterday. Look to see if there's people to continue to sell it today. 44.60 is where it peaked at yesterday in the afternoon, and then yesterday's low was 43.75. That's pretty much it. Checking back in with the SPYs. Looks like we're still inside of that. Here's a 7-day. And so you can see we supported here at 132. Now we're looking to move back above. We take out the 132.50, look for those highs from last week. Good luck today, everyone, and be patient on the open. Give yourself a chance to take advantage of the opportunity that we've been seeing.